Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today I will read my story. I hope you enjoy your time. Let's begin.
Thomas Grant was never a rebellious genius. He was born into a family of a mailman and a librarian, where silence meant respect for other people's work. He was a quiet, focused boy. He did not ask for new toys. Instead, he took old radios from junkyards, took them apart, and built simple transmitters. Thomas knew one thing very early. He had no right to make mistakes. He had no money and no connections. His only ticket to the future was perfect education. He did not just study, he dug into knowledge, knowing there was no safety net behind him. At MIT, he became a legend by his third year. His patents on satellite trajectory optimization were studied by NASA. But Thomas himself still wore an old jacket and ate free crackers for lunch. Everything changed in his fourth year when Maria appeared in his lab. She was his mirror. If Thomas was pure intuition, Maria was perfect logic. Their love was born not in cinemas, but over blueprints and formulas. They both came from poor families and knew the truth. The only way out was hard, exhausting work. Thomas dreamed of his own company, Aether Tech, but life gave no pauses. When Maria became pregnant, Thomas understood he could not take risks. He sold his first major patent to a giant corporation for almost nothing, just to get cash for insurance and for his daughter's future education. Olivia grew up in an intellectual paradise. By the age of 15, she helped her mother with code and her father with calculations. She saw how her parents, even with high income, still saved money and invested everything into her future. Everything collapsed when the COVID pandemic hit Seattle. Maria worked as an analyst at a medical center. One evening, she came home with a light cough. "Tom, don't come close. I'm just tired," she said, pressing her hand to her chest. "The office was chaos today. The air systems went crazy. I just need to finish this vaccine logistics report, and then I'll rest. It's just a cold, love. We don't have time for sick leave. You know how much we owe for the new server park." She was just like Thomas, responsible to self-destruction. She could not allow herself to be sick when the family's stability was at stake. Maria took fever pills by the handful and kept typing data until her fingers started to shake. But the virus, fed by chronic lack of sleep, showed no mercy. 5 days later, when Thomas finally called an ambulance against her will, her oxygen level was critical. They took her away on a stretcher. She was still whispering, "Tom, check the second folder. The quarterly taxes are there. Olivia, take care of your dad. He forgets to eat." 3 days later, Maria was gone. For Thomas, the world stopped existing. It was not just grief, it was the complete destruction of his soul. Olivia watched her strong, unbreakable father turn into a shadow. He could sit for hours in his dark office staring at an empty coffee cup Maria once left behind. He stopped sleeping, his hands began to shake. His once sharp mind was covered by tranquilizers and guilt. He blamed himself for not forcing her to rest sooner, for letting her work for those cursed money. "I killed her, Olivia," he whispered in feverish delirium. "I made her run that marathon until her heart gave up." At that moment of absolute vulnerability, when the house lost its protection together with its owner's mind, Claudia appeared at the door. She was a hired crisis manager, cold, perfect, smelling of expensive perfume and calm. She entered the Grant house not like a guest, but like a surgeon ready to cut away pain. She did not talk with Thomas about physics. She simply put food in front of him and said, "Tom, you must live for Olivia. And to have strength for her, leave the boring bills, investor lawsuits, and contracts to me. I will make sure you never have to think about numbers again. Just breathe." For Thomas, who had always relied on Maria in legal and everyday matters, Claudia became life support for his business. He gave her signing rights and full access to accounts without reading the documents. He did not see it as a takeover. He saw it as a way to close his eyes and stop feeling pain. Claudia quickly moved her daughters, Cassandra and Charlotte, into the house. Then she began to carefully erase Maria's memory. Photos of Thomas's first wife disappeared into attic boxes, under the excuse of caring for Thomas's mental health. One day, 16-year-old Olivia walked into the office and saw Claudia scanning Maria's personal diary. It contained access keys to offshore accounts. "What are you doing? Those are my mom's things," she shouted. Claudia slowly turned around. Her look was cold, like ice in a glass of whiskey. "I'm saving your father from bankruptcy, sweetheart," she said. For him, it was impossible. "Are you sure?" Olivia wrote carefully. "Yes, I think so," he replied a minute later. "Wait, no, you're right. That's strange. I'm not thinking clearly today." She leaned back in her chair and stared at the screen for a long time. This was not normal tiredness. Thomas always knew where his focus ended. Now he did not see that line. "Dad," she wrote, "when was the last time you had a medical checkup?" "Don't start," he answered, almost at once. "It's just stress." "No, it's data. You've made mistakes twice this week." "Olivia, I insist." He did not agree at once. First he joked, then he got annoyed. But in the end, he sent a short message. "Okay, I'll schedule it." The results came a few days later. The diagnosis was careful, almost gentle. Early stage, high chances with proper treatment. The doctor spoke calmly, like it was a difficult but solvable task. "The key is routine and medication," he said. "If everything is done right, we can control this." Thomas nodded. He was not afraid. Fear came later, not for himself, but for the thought that he might become weak again. Claudia reacted immediately. She took control the same way she once took control of finances and documents. "I'll handle the treatment," she said. "You shouldn't think about anything right now." She neatly put the medicine boxes into a cabinet, made a schedule, reminded him when to take pills. Everything looked perfect. That was why no one noticed the substitution. Thomas did not get better. He became tired faster. He lost weight. Sometimes he complained about an empty feeling in his head, as if thoughts were slipping away. Doctors said the body needed time. Claudia nodded and increased the dosage, the wrong one. Olivia did not see this. She was on the other side of the country, buried in work. Her professor gave her a task casually. "There's a strange calculation here," he said, handing her a file. "An old case, unofficial. Just take a look if you're interested." She became interested too fast. Olivia spent a week on the problem. She got angry, erased formulas, started again, walked around campus, replaying models in her head. The solution did not come until she made a step sideways, not making the model more complex, but simpler. She removed an assumption that had been considered mandatory for decades. When the model finally worked, she checked the data several times before sending it back. 2 hours later, the professor replied, "Do you understand what you just did?" A day later, her calculations moved forward. No logos, no credit, but the effect was clear. Less fuel use, lower load, a solution to a lift problem engineers had struggled with for years. "This is big," the professor said carefully, "much bigger than you think." At the same time, the MARIA project kept growing. Olivia began running everything through it, even anonymized medical datasets, just for testing. And at some point, the system returned something strange. Not a conclusion, not a diagnosis, a mismatch. She frowned and saved the result, then again and again. Meanwhile, one morning, Thomas could not get out of bed. His test results were getting worse despite treatment. The doctor talked about adjusting therapy. Claudia listened closely and later said, "Then we just need to increase the dose." That same night, Olivia wrote to her father, "How are you feeling?" The reply did not come right away. Tired, heavy head,